Digital Foundry hit the scene in 2004 with intensely precise technical analysis of games and gaming hardware. They have a show called Digital Foundry Direct, where they all talk about the latest in gaming news. The recent focus on Stellar Blade has resulted in the resurfacing of an old Digital Foundry Direct episode from a few years back, where they talked about what was known at the time as Project Eve.
You're watching RealMarcFoxx, your stronghold for rational, reasonable, real gamers.
And the controversy began with comments by Alex Battaglia, or Battaglia, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, in which he criticizes the game. Let's have a look.
The one thing, I know you were talking about the character from a bygone era. I do think the character model was actually very distracting in not a good way, because with the camera angles chosen, it just felt like this game seems like a game that came out in 2002 in terms of its character design. It's a bit old and not flattering, I don't think, for a modern audience.
So Alex made a comment about the character model of Eve being from a bygone era. He talks about it being distracting and not in a good way, alluding to it being too spicy. But yet Alex has photos like these all over the internet, even posted to his own Instagram account. Not only are these photos extremely spicy, but they're even somewhat questionable. There's one of him in what appears to be a schoolgirl skirt, and a very short one at that. He refers to Eve in Project Eve, now known as Stellar Blade, as not flattering. And if we want to talk about what's not flattering, let's take another look at his photos. Well, let's not. We all know those are not flattering. But what does he think is flattering?
It's in comparison to something like Forspoken, which has, yes, it has much more realistic looking character designs. It's not these hyper proportioned something or another's, but it also seemed, a bit more grounded in a way that I found much more appealing than what we saw here.
That's right, Forspoken. He's a particularly big fan of Frey, the main character of Forspoken, describing the game as good looking. Yes, that's right, people. Forspoken, a game that was blasted for how bad it was, including the main character, is what Alex would consider a good looking game and one with good character design. Today's drink of choice is cold peppermint tea. Brewed it myself, and now I'm gonna take a drink. Not bad. So rather than disagree with Alex, Digital Foundry's John Linneman agrees with him, stating that the character model seems out of place.
Character models from a bygone era put into a modern game.
It is weird. It feels a little out of place, I think.
Well, the game feels a bit out of place.
Host and lead editor Richard Ledbetter, as well as the other character from Digital Foundry, Audi Sarley, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, simply laughed along with them, neither offering any counterpoints. There was no alternative viewpoint here. We were all simply left with the impression that Eve's design was from a bygone era, and it was out of place as well as distracting and not in a good way. Digital Foundry is connected to Eurogamer, which came to some negative publicity lately for an article they wrote, a puff piece supporting Sweet Baby Stink. And if you didn't know already, which I have a video about it, Sweet Baby Stink is a far-left radical propagandist group that corrupts games with supposed diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we all know is simply anti-white, anti-male, and anti-hetero. The author of this radical left-wing propagandist piece is Liv Ngan, N-G-A-N, not sure how to pronounce that, my apologies. And to no one's surprise, Livs is a PIB. What is a PIB? It's a pronouns in bio. And not surprisingly, Digital Foundry is completely silent on the recent Sweet Baby Inc. controversy. You should take note of who in the gaming space is not talking about it, because this is the biggest news in the gaming internet space. So it is odd for anyone who talks about gaming news to not even mention Sweet Baby Inc. and all the controversy surrounding them. So again, take note of who's remaining silent, because more than likely, they're being silent because they support Sweet Baby Stink and similar left-wing organizations, and they're just trying to ride this out quietly in hopes that you don't notice. There are quite simply only really two positions for anyone to take. Either you support the creativity of developers to create whatever it is that they want to create and let the market decide whether it's good or not, or the second option is you support these radical left-wing propaganda groups that try to forcibly inject supposed diversity into video games. Let me make this clear. I wholeheartedly 100% oppose all radical left-wing propagandists in the gaming space and in the gaming journalism space. I don't want them here. I think they make everything worse, and when they leave, things get better. Gaming and games journalism is simply better without them. I wish I could tell you that Sweet Baby Stink is alone in their corruption of video games and video game journalism, but they're not. You'll see on screen here a host of other groups to look into. There are even additional groups beyond this that I'm looking into right now. If you find anything interesting or good on any of these groups or other similar radical left-wing propagandist groups in the gaming sphere, please send them to me. You can message me here on YouTube or send me a DM on Twitter. And me, well, I know I'm done with digital Soylentry. I have no more interest in watching their content now that I know where they stand. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I notice every single one of your likes, your comments, and your subscriptions while you hit that notification bell icon, and I appreciate every comment you leave below. It does a lot to help with the algorithm on YouTube. A huge shout out and thank you to our super real gamers, Drunken Dwarf, Vulpus Persona, and GeoTCXS. And a big shout out and thank you to Real Gamer Fornelius Nolan, who has his own YouTube channel. I recommend you check it out. And you know what? I'm just thankful that Sweet Baby Stink and their far left propagandist friends had nothing to do with the development of
Magician on the NES.
one of the best games ever released. If you haven't played it, well, I highly recommend you check out Magician on the NES. I hope you'll return and join me again for my next video, and as always, my friends, for Fox's sake, stay real, gamers. Don't forget to grab your copy of New Tokyo, available on Amazon in Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, and paperback formats. Magician on the NES. It's got a piece of cat fur or something on it. Let's try that again.